It's time for happy hour here on the
Geek Buddies! Hey!
We're back at it. We're back at it here live on this Friday. We were live earlier this week as well, so excited to be back. Don't worry, Michael Vogel will be joining us. He's having some audio technical issues. We were already past the 5-minute mark, so I just thought we'd start the show. Michael will be coming in for all of you who worship at the Vogel, the altar of Michael Vogel. He will be in to give his 2 cents on all the topics we're talking about here. But this is happy hour. Every once in a while on a Friday, we go live on the Geek Buddies, and I kind of coined the term happy hour with Shannon. Shannon was suggesting that as well. So that's what we do here. So we each got a drink here to get us going. I have opened a nice bottle of wine here from Clos de Napa Cellars. It's a reserve. It's a cab, and I got it at the Costco. That's right. That's right. Nothing but quality for me here. So we're pouring it out. I haven't had wine in quite some time, so this is what I'm going to be drinking today. And I'm trying not to finish the whole bottle before the end of the episode here. And, you know, I'm pretty clumsy, so I got to put the cork on. Shannon, what are you imbibing tonight as we go into the Geek Buddies here?
This is just a simple vodka soda. This is just Tito's vodka, and the soda water that I use. This is not a plug, is Waterloo sparkling water. They're I find that their flavored waters, a lot of times when you think about like flavored water, thinks it knows what fruit tastes like.
Yeah.
This is actually, I think this has a very nice flavor. This is the grape Waterloo with Tito's vodka.
Great, babe. Let us know. Stephanie is a fan. She said, I love Waterloo. There you go.
It's the best. It's the best.
I love it. Let's do it. I love it. But yeah, shout out to you, buddy. Happy Friday.
Cheers, sir.
Cheers, sir. Let's have a little. Oh, yes, that's nice. That's nice. I like that. Someone says
what is the glass that you have that wine in?
The Lady Outlaw found these the other day. And I kind of love it because I have not found the wine glasses that I like. You know me, Shannon. I like things that feel sturdy. I don't like those lightweight little things.
Something that you could just crush in your hand.
Yeah. Something that if I threw it on the ground, it would survive. So I've been having a hard time finding wine glasses that are sturdy. This side of goblets. So I have to make sure I'm trying to find that middle ground between the light crystal type of wine glasses and a goblet. So hopefully I can find it at some point this weekend.
Now I have to ask you before Mikey gets here, how often are you chucking a drink that you need to make sure that the glass is sturdy enough that it can handle a throw from the cannon of John Roca?
Let's just say back in my 30s and 40s, yeah, there were a few nights where I would just toss it down on the ground, either watching a sporting event or getting off the phone with an ex-girlfriend who had said something unsavory to me. So you just never know what the reasons might be. Uh-oh. Yes? Oh,
we
can't hear you. So now he can finally hear us.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah!
Hey! Guys.
How are you, Michael? We were just talking about what we're drinking. What do you got on tap here?
I had a little Diet Coke with maybe a little whiskey in it.
Nice. Shannon's got a vodka and soda. Is that correct? So Shannon, vodka and soda. And I got myself a little cab that I'm popping open here, a little Cabernet Sauvignon. So we are hanging out with Happy Hour tonight. Gentlemen, how are you? Michael, how was your week? What do you got going on? Anything you want to talk about? What's the situation there?
My week was good. These last 10 minutes have been stressful because I didn't know why I couldn't hear you, but I'm here now, and that's great. It's been a good week. I had a nice geeky week. I watched the end of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yes.
I watched the beginning of Win or Lose, the new Pixar series on Disney Plus. So I drew some pictures. I took some meetings.
Yes.
It's been good.
All right. For those that don't follow Michael on social media, you should. He's been doing these drawings almost every day. And they've been fun to like and look at almost every day. How are you feeling about Win or Lose? It's getting not the greatest, but not the worst reviews. So what are your thoughts on Win or Lose just initially as you've started watching it?
Initially, I do not love that Disney Plus loves a 20-minute show. That's what I don't love, whether it be Star Wars or Marvel or anything. Like Disney Plus, with all the other streaming services giving us like full-length series of different things, Penguin, Matlock, which I actually am oddly a big fan of.
Kathy Bates, yes.
Shannon, don't you laugh. Matlock is great. But
maybe I was reading a comment. Maybe I was reading a comment. You don't know.
Yeah, sure. But no, I just think like I watched the Pixar thing and, you sort of get into it. And I just watched the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man finale where you get these full 30-minute episodes. And then you get to Win or Lose and you're like, okay, it's like a 23-minute episode. And then the credits start and you're like, it's an 18-minute episode. All right. That being said, I will say that like we'll see where it goes, but both episodes in very different ways sort of did affect me emotionally in the way that you want a Pixar thing to. So I don't think they're amazing, but I do think they are worth checking out. And I'm interested to see where it goes.
Have they dropped all the episodes?
No, just the first two.
Just the first two. Okay. All right. Cool. Shannon, what about you? How's your week? What are you up to? What have you been working on? Anything to talk about?
I mean, so earlier today, I'm cooking dinner for my wife tonight, which is why, we are on a little bit of a clock. But so I went, I had to go to the grocery store to pick up some extra ingredients, and it was Trader Joe's, so I had to get the gourmet jelly beans. And so I immediately I put them in a dish. I'm like, you know what I'm gonna have? I'm gonna have a little candy dish next to my computer, so I can just pop a jelly bean.
What could go wrong?
Well, the dish is not here right now. So a couple of things. First, I don't like licorice. That is the only jelly bean I don't like. Gourmet jelly beans, and the licorice and the grape are very close in color. So I have to pour them all out. I've never seen this many licorice jelly beans. I literally, like, my wife likes licorice, so I've got like 20. And so I go out and she's on a work call and she's looking at the amount, like, I just pour them in her hand. She's like, what am I supposed to do with this right now? I'm on a call. But then also, that dish lasted about an episode of Severance.
Wow.
Now the dish is back in the sink.
Wow.
Ready to be watched.
So people are asking, what's for dinner?
Yeah, what's for dinner?
I'm making chicken fajitas. I'm doing the chicken on the grill. It's marinating in a nice some seasoning and some oil right now. I've already diced up our yellow and orange peppers and onions. I've got some nice flour tortillas. I'm very excited.
Do you kick the door open and walk out with it smoking and put it on the table, or how does it work with the way you do fajitas?
So I have a cast iron skillet, that's kind of like the thing that they use in certain Mexican restaurants. That thing is such a bitch to clean. Okay. And every time I think about taking it out, I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna use the regular. I'm just gonna use the regular one. And my wife is not so picky in that she will still have the fajitas even if they're not smoking like they do at certain places.
My wife. That's good.
My wife.
That's good. Let's see. Nothing to report on my end. Just working on stuff all week. I am going to a sensory deprivation chamber tomorrow. One of these studios have asked me and the Lady Outlaw to do this and promote a movie that's coming out, I think next week or in a couple of weeks, that has to deal with sensory deprivation. So we're trying it out tomorrow for an hour. I've never done it. I'm a little nervous. But
how long are you going to be in there?
An hour. Yeah, so Last Breath. That's right, Jay Scoots. Last Breath. That's the one we're promoting. So so we're doing it, and we're gonna do videos and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's gonna happen tomorrow.
How much room are in those?
You're in a tank, and they have only 2 tanks, so only 2 people at a time can do it.
No, but how much room do you have?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I'm not the room. The amount of room doesn't bother me. The not speaking to anybody for an hour would be hard for me.
Oh yeah, this is true, very true. Whereas I'm just gonna be floating. I wish I could bring in my music, but it's not.
Well, you used to talk about back when we were younger. You used to talk about your ideal room to watch movies in, where you were going to be hanging in a sort of elastic bungee.
Yes.
Like you were basically going to be Lord Harkonnen is what I think it was.
Hopefully not as grotesque, but yes, absolutely. Yes.
This sounds like you're sitting in a sex swing. That's what it sounds like.
In a vat of tar. Yeah. Watch that situation. So no, but I like it because I like to put on my noise canceling earphones and disappear. And I just put on Blade Runner music and just disappear for an hour. So to me, this is gonna be fun. This is my cup of tea. I think she's gonna freak out. So we're gonna see how this all goes about. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're looking forward to doing this weekend. It'll be around 2:00 tomorrow afternoon. So we'll see.
Don't put on the score for Titanic.
I don't think you can do any music. I think you just kind of have to sit there for an hour because they turn off all the lights and you're just in a tank. Yeah, everything's dark and
There's nothing illuminated in it.
Nothing's illuminated. You're just in the tank for an hour and there's no sound, nothing. Yeah, it's incredible. And then they come get you. Baron Roka Harkonnen. That is hilarious. We'll see. Anyway, we got stuff to get into today, though. We got fun, as you see from the title of the episode, a fun conversation about who will be in the new Avengers team that Sam Wilson has been tasked with putting together by the former president. If you watch the movie here, and so we're gonna have fun talking about that. But this was a question Michael asked in our text exchange, and I thought this would be fun for us to do as a main topic. So we're going to go back and forth on this. This will be interesting to see who comes up being our team separately. We're also going to get into some Spider-Man review for the final 2 episodes. Really banging final 2 episodes there for that series. We're going to get into some James Bond news and get into some Avatar Last Airbender animated news. So fascinating stuff to get into first. But Streamlabs Super Chats are open. We're going to keep this to a 90-minute show, y'all. So send in your questions, send in your thoughts and comments now on Streamlabs Super Chats. We will get to them very quickly. We'll probably answer them very quickly so we get out of here in 90 minutes. So send them in now so we get to your questions when we do. All right, Shannon, take it away. What do you got for us?
So what I don't have is trailers this week. Nothing really came out that got our interest going. But huge news yesterday coming out that Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, the producers of the James Bond series, the ones that have owned the rights since 1962, it started with her father, Albert Broccoli. Yeah. They are now taking a step back and letting Amazon MGM have full, complete control of this property. So they're still going to be co-owners, but they are taking a step back. So this is really, really interesting because, again, something that happened, like, I think James Bond is probably a studio's, that's a studio's wet dream in terms of an IP. But what has always happened is this family has been so guarded with it, and they've really, everything kind of stops with them. Yeah. And for a long time, like they had talked about, Amazon apparently had ideas to do a spinoff. Like at one point there was going to be that Jinx spinoff with Halle Berry from that one Pierce Brosnan movie. But the fact that they are now kind of taking a step back, Amazon and MGM, they can kind of do whatever they want with it right now, to the point that Jeff Bezos posted on Twitter asking the fans, hey, who should be James Bond? So this is kind of like one of the last great Hollywood families that has the rights to a character, to a property, and now it's going over to a corporation. So again, I've never been a huge James Bond fan. I can go see the movies and I will immediately forget them. I mean, I might enjoy the movie, but in terms of the ramifications, I think this is pretty huge. But I'll throw it over to you first, Johnny. What do you think about this news? The Broccoli's no longer being involved creatively with James Bond.
We talked a little bit about it yesterday on the hot mic. I'm just surprised that this has happened. But as we were doing the show, the report came out that Amazon paid them $1 billion to step back away from this thing. So you know what? You can take whatever you want from me for $1 billion, including James Bond. So I totally understand this. I think Barbara is 83 and Michael Wilson is 63 or something like that, or the reverse ages. Okay, so Michael's 83, Barbara's 60. Either way, I'm sure they were just tired of battling with Amazon about all of this. At some point, you can't stem the tide. Amazon wants to do what they want to do, which is a bunch of spin-off series. They want to liquidate this brand as quickly as possible and make as much money off of it. So I understand. I do think it's a little sad. I'm not quite as precious about James Bond because there have been some pretty cheesy installments and some cheesy James Bonds in the past. So it's not like it's been this perfectly untouchable thing. So, but curious to see where we go next. Who is going to be in charge? You know, they were talking about Sam Mendes, talking about McQuarrie, there's talking about Christopher Nolan. Is it going to be a young up-and-comer? And who is going to be Bond? So there's a lot of questions here. But clearly Bezos wanted to take control of this franchise, wanted to put his people in place like Jen Psaki to push this thing along. So those are my thoughts overall. I'm kind of sad to see the family thing get disconnected. But you know what? It's a business, and they want to make money off of this franchise. And I think this is where eventually they reached some number that finally was enough for them to let go of it. What do you think?
What do you think of the news? Were you shaken, stirred?
I want to know what an 83-year-old does with $1 billion.
That's a great point.
That's really what I was like, you're 83 years old. And I mean, obviously they have a lot of money anyways, but like, here's $1 billion.
Yeah.
What are you doing? That's what I want to know. I don't know. I like John. It was a weird thing because a part of you sort of feels like, oh, the reins are off and now they're going to do whatever with James Bond. But then you think about it for a minute and you're like, we've seen some pretty shitty James Bond movies.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we've had like this untouched, perfect franchise and now we're worried it's going to get shitty. Like, we saw Denise Richards as a nuclear physicist. Like, we've seen some bad things. So I guess, I mean, the real question is, how do we feel about like the JBCU? Ooh, like we're basically stepping into the potential for a James Bond cinematic universe. Like, we are now in a place where somebody can come along and say, okay, we've got our mainline James Bond movies, but we're going to do some M movies. We're going to do some Q movies. We're going to get this to the Jinx thing. We're going to get a spinoff. Like, we can actually take James Bond as a character and build him out into an extended universe of other characters and ideas, and villains can take on their own lives, like in a way that they've never been able to before. So from a world building standpoint, that's actually kind of cool and exciting, unless it's shitty. And I think we sort of, I mean, this is like, we're literally living in the shadow of everybody responding to Captain America Brave New World. We have these conversations about Star Wars every day. Like, whenever something is taken away from a singular creator and kind of given to the studio, you get more content.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily get more good content. You just get more content. So there's a potential that this could open up the possibility of really fun new stories in the James Bond universe, but also is James Bond a universe that we need to explore more thoroughly than we already have? I guess that's really the question.
Right. Now, do you guys think that the leadership over at Amazon has watched some of the missteps that Disney specifically has taken with Marvel, with Star Wars, or do you think they're going to be like, let's nail the gas and get some stuff out there ASAP?
It's not even the same thing. Like, they're like, every one of them is so different. Like, Marvel is a universe that has 60 years of content with hundreds of characters. Right. So they have tons to pull from. Star Wars is a universe that has been pretty well established in when Disney bought it in 6 films. James Bond is a singular character. And yes, there's a couple characters that sort of surround him, but he's a singular character and he's been played by multiple people in different versions, but it's always sort of like a wash, rinse, repeat idea. So it's sort of like they can't really look at anything else as an example because it's its own thing. Like, if you were to take James Bond and say, we're going to spin this out into, we're building out this universe now, they might not. They might say, okay, we're not going to go down, to your point, we're not going to go down the Star Wars Marvel road. We're going to do the same thing that they've always done. We're going to do one character, one guy is going to play James Bond, and we're going to tell a series of adventures in this, and we're going to do it for 10 years, and then we're going to do it again. I have a feeling they're going to try and do more with it, but to your point, that might not be the right thing to do with James Bond.
Yeah, I mean they're closing out. They were able to close out the Daniel Craig series, which were the most successful films
Yes.
in the history of the franchise. But yeah, there's been a lot of chatter about who the next Bond is going to be, and we had heard Aaron Taylor Johnson, and then that name kind of went away. Other names have popped up. Johnny, do you think Jeff Bezos has taken anyone's suggestions on Twitter seriously? Do you think a fan got lucky and maybe picked someone out that they were going to cast?
Listen, as I get older, I become even more crotchety than I was already, and these feelings come up in me that are very frustrating for me. And that is a billionaire like Jeff Bezos, and of course, it's not him tweeting this. Of course, it might be his assistant or whatever. Putting that out there as a tweet, like, "Hey kids, who do you want to be Bond?" And it just drives me like Carolyn from the Traders. "Hey, who's going to be Bond?" And so I'm just sitting here like,
first of all, sir, how dare you? The night after this last episode,
too soon.
Too soon.
I was heartbroken. Listen, I just, to me, this concerns me that was the first thing he did. The ink wasn't even dry on the deal that he's tweeting out, "Hey guys, who do you want to be Bond?" And that to me is so low rent in the approach that they're taking. Yes, it's fun, and maybe I'm being crotchety. Young people are like, yeah, hey, who would you want to see? But I have a weird feeling that they might go with an American as an FU. And I don't know where they can go with this, but certainly we're going to have a Moneypenny series. We're going to have a series about the people that make the gadgets for like Q's, Q's Cave or something like that, where they're making up all the stuff that they make up for Bond. There's going to definitely be a young James Bond series, like we had a young Indiana Jones Chronicles. There's going to be the 00 program. There'll be a 001. There's going to be all this stuff that opens up now. So for me, the danger is they're going to dilute the brand. And although I am clear it's not the most precious brand, there is still a lot of people who love this brand. And, we don't even have Mike Kalinowski on the show, who would probably be losing his mind right now talking about all the possibilities. Negative possibilities, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, maybe not. Like, I will say the one example that I could think of that the way that Disney has done Star Wars or Marvel is not the way that Disney has done Indiana Jones.
Yes, very true.
Indiana Jones is a franchise that is built around one character. Now, for Indiana Jones, it's always been Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think any of us can really picture anybody else. Now, with James Bond, you've had multiple people play Bond, but it's sort of, I think that Indiana Jones is the closest thing, mainly because Steven Spielberg was pissed that he couldn't do a James Bond movie, and so they came up with Indiana Jones. So they are the closest cinematically to each other anyways, but it's like, there's a potential that even Bezos and even Amazon and everybody are like, look, we can't do with James Bond what we do with other things. Like, we're going to have to just do Bond movies the way that they've always been done. I don't know. I feel like there might be cooler heads might prevail in the way that they handle Bond.
You know what American I heard it's going to be?
What?
John Lithgow. He's going to go straight from Dumbledore right to Bond. We've never had an older Bond.
James Bond. I could see that. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. Go ahead, Mike. What were you going to say?
I was going to say Will Ferrell.
I don't know. I saw him play Sherlock Holmes. I don't know if we want to go back down that road.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys this. I mean, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Like, Christopher Nolan's not going to be available for 8 months. Do you wait for Nolan if he's interested? Do you go now? I'm like, why? Make this deal? Okay, but I'm saying, why make this deal now if you don't have already someone in line to take over? Am I wrong in reading it this way? I mean, Michael, you've been in the halls of power of some of these deals. Is this just about a timing thing? It was time to do it. They did it. We'll deal with getting a showrunner or a person in charge over all the franchise down the road.
I think with this particular family, if you ever reach the moment where they're feeling like they're going to take the money, you give them the money.
Yeah, fair.
Like, even if you have to wait 3 years after that to figure out who you want creatively, like, it's been so, like, you're going to have to claw it from their dead hands kind of situation. So if you think you even remotely have the opportunity to get it, you take it. Yeah. And yeah, if Nolan is on board, like if you went to Christopher Nolan, if you saw Christopher Nolan at a party and you said, "Would you ever want to tackle James Bond?" and he said, "Maybe," you wait 3 years for Christopher Nolan. Like you just do it, because a Christopher Nolan James Bond franchise is like that. Yeah, that would be the thing. Like, so I don't know if that's really in the cards. And I don't know that Christopher Nolan, after doing Batman and other stuff, I think Christopher Nolan is one of the few directors right now who can open a movie just based on Christopher Nolan decided he was going to do a movie. So I don't know that he needs Bond, but if he wanted to, yeah, like wait for him.
Yeah.
Well,
what about you, Shin? Would you wait, or is there anyone else you were thinking of?
I mean, in terms of directors, I mean, I think Nolan is kind of the natural choice. I don't think Nolan does it, though. I don't think.
Really?
I think Nolan has won his Oscar. I think he wants to see how much more he can do. You know, they released that first shot of Matt Damon as Odysseus from the Odyssey, and like, you know, there were some questions when that project was announced. Like, is he going full like period piece, or is this like an adaptation thing that he's doing? It's like looking at Matt Damon, like, nope, you're doing a period piece. And they're talking about using practical effects for some of these creatures. So I think at one point you maybe could have. Yep, there he is. At one point, I think Nolan would have considered taking it. Now, I think Nolan only wants to do the movie if he can do the movie that he wants to do. Yeah, and he's not going to want to stop with Bond. He's going to want to do other stuff.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, Macquarie's sitting out there. Mission Impossible is about to wrap up. I mean, that's a guy you can look at. You can bring back Sam Mendes. I mean, I think there's possibilities all around. I think that's how you override people who are already speculating that they're going to kill the brand or squeeze it to the last penny, is you bring someone in with some real heft who is going to be in charge, and you make them the Kevin Feige of the James Bond universe. They're not doing other things. All they're doing is James Bond, kind of like what we see now with Denis Villeneuve and Dune for those 3 movies. That's all he's doing is Dune, and then he's going to move on and do other things. So I imagine that's the approach you have to take with this situation, you know?
I mean, at one point, I mean, he's kind of lost some cachet now, but at one point it's like, this seems tailor-made for Matthew Vaughn to come in and do Bond. But his last couple movies, he's again, he may have lost the spring in his step.
Sam Rockwell as James Bond. Oh, Martin McDonagh. Martin McDonagh's not a bad idea. I don't know if it works, but that's not a bad idea.
Q's gonna be played by a donkey.
All right, so we'll see what happens with the Bond. We'll keep tabs on it for sure. Let's move on to some other stories here. Michael, you want to take us into the world of Avatar?
I sure do. So it was announced, it's been announced for a while. You know, Avatar Studios was formed by Nickelodeon, and they've been doing a lot of stuff, including the Avatar live action series on Netflix. But they've been saying that they're going to do a series of Avatar live action movies and a new series. And we've got a ton of information about the newest Avatar series coming to Nickelodeon. It is called Avatar 7 Havens. 26 half-hour episodes spread across 2 seasons, book 1 and book 2 Avatar style. Per the official logline, the series is set in a world shattered by a devastating cataclysm. A young earthbender discovers that she is the new Avatar after Korra, but in this dangerous era, the title marks her as humanity's destroyer, not its savior. She is hunted by both human and spirit enemies, and she and her long-lost twin must uncover the mysterious origins and save the 7 Havens before civilization's last stronghold collapses. So,
wow.
If you are a fan of the Avatar series, you're a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, you're a fan of Korra, you know that at the end of Legend of Korra, Korra and Asami hold hands, they walk into the spirit realm, everything seems cool in Republic City. So what this cataclysm is, what it is that happens that devastates the entire lands leading into this series, what happened to Korra, what went on? These are some pretty big questions that are pretty compelling, but given the way that the creative team has handled the transition from Avatar into Korra and now Korra into this, they seem to be able to handle those big questions. It seems like they know what they're doing, but everybody got very excited about this information. I know that I am the most into this universe out of the 3 of us, but gentlemen, based on that description, Do you have any opinions? John, is this your opportunity to finally jump on the animated Avatar bandwagon? Shannon, what do you think? Do you have any opinions? What are your thoughts? Johnny, let's go to you first.
I like the description. The log line makes it very interesting. This idea of two people coming together and trying to find their what their origins are. So clearly there's more mystery, not only for us to discover, but for them to discover as it goes along. So that sounds cool. The idea of it being this cataclysmic event. So it's clearly super important. Because from what I understand, what happens in the Avatar, and please correct me, in the animated series is like,
I will.
this is just like he goes along and he's slowly embracing what his role is supposed to be in this world and learning how to fight and going through all these things and then learning about the world and the 4 different elements. So it's more of a discovery process. This seems more like they've been chosen. Okay, now what are you going to do here with this event, this cataclysmic event? I don't know if there was a cataclysmic event that launched things off in the original Avatar animated series, but this feels like much more urgent. So it's an interesting approach to it. And the logline is exciting. So yeah, I'm in.
Shannon?
Really interesting because there's two points that one, you think of Last Airbender and you think of Legend of Korra, and what the public's opinion of the Avatar is in those different series. How in the original, the Avatar has been gone for what, Mikey, 100 years? No one's seen it. The Avatar is more of this kind of legendary figure that comes back, this myth almost. And you see as the Fire Nation is trying to basically, take over the other nations. You see this spark of hope coming from the return of the Avatar, who also happens to be a child. You get to Korra, and the Avatar is kind of like a celebrity. I mean, it's the Avatar. People know about the Avatar. The way that the Legend of Korra in terms of the world has progressed. It's kind of like 1920s almost, 1918. And seeing that the Avatar is something people are still excited to see the Avatar, but it's not like this legendary, this legendary myth in the first season or in the first series. This one, it sounds like Avatar is kind of like maybe enemy number one right now. And that's just such a shift from what we've gotten before. And also, what is it, 70 years between Avatar and Korra, Mikey?
Between maybe-ish. I don't know exactly, but
you think about how much time has passed and how Korra is sort of this industrialized world. What happened to this world for everything to kind of go to shit? I
guess that when you say cataclysm, I mean, that is the big question. So first of all, I'm going to say everything that John said, John needs to watch Legend of Korra. So I'm going to go on record now in this episode, and anybody in the chat who's watching this live. So John watched the Netflix first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender. He has not watched the animated series, so he doesn't know how good it actually is. But I will tell you right now that if John watched this weekend all of Avatar: The Last Airbender and all of Legend of Korra, John is going to like Legend of Korra more because it's darker and more complicated. So I know that John is going to be more of a Korra guy. I know some people in the chat are more Avatar, some are more Korra. I kind of love both equally. But I think Shannon makes a really good point that, and John did too, in that Avatar is a show about this kid that shows up after 100 years. He was frozen in a block of ice. Nobody remembers the Avatar. And he's sort of the unwilling hero. He doesn't know that he's up to the task. He has to step into this role. The Avatar is this legendary thing that people have almost forgotten. And then Legend of Korra is about somebody who, look, Aang and Team Avatar sort of they beat Fire Lord Ozai. They stopped the 100-Year War. Everything is great. They took a chunk of the Earth Kingdom. They turned it into Republic City, which to Shannon's point is kind of the 1920s. And things are kind of good. And so Korra shows up as the new Avatar and has to deal with sort of more complicated, more sort of subtle issues. And we don't know where Korra's story ends. We know where Aang's story ends, thanks to Korra, but we don't know what the end of Korra's journey is. We see her walk off with Asami at the end of book 4, but we don't know where things go. And so somewhere between holding Asami's hand and walking into the spirit world and the beginning of this new series, something happens that's really bad. And at some point, Korra dies.
Yeah.
And this new avatar now, the Earthbender, because we had an Airbender and a Waterbender, and now we're back to Earth, is around. So I think that the idea that there's this cataclysm that was so bad that everybody hates the Avatar is really, really interesting. So I think that, look, Avatar to me is low key. Like when we talk about Marvel and Star Wars and James Bond and all the things we're talking about, Avatar is one of those things that if you know, it's as compelling as those things. It's as good as those things. But because it's mostly been told in animation, it doesn't quite hold the same level. But I'm very, very excited for this story to continue. And I think that my main goal with this show coming out is to finally get John to actually watch all of Avatar. And if you would all in the chat inform him that he's ridiculous for not having watched it, that will help me on my journey. So thank you so much.
Jesus. Yeah, yes, I will jump. But do you think, Michael, when I see this, do you think that the creators being removed off the live action one is what motivated them to come back and do this season? Or because you guys work in animation, or has this been constantly the conversation for years and it just happened to open up and they've broken the story and now they can announce it? What do you think happened?
I know some writers. I know they've been working on this story for a while. So the announcement is not, they've been writing this. This has been like these scripts. There's a lot of these scripts that are done already. I don't remember the exact timing about when they left and when Nickelodeon picked them up. But the big difference is they were working on the Avatar live action series. And for a lot of reasons, whether you talk to people at Netflix or you talk to them, it didn't work out. What Nickelodeon offered them was Avatar Studios. I mean, they are doing this Avatar series, but they are also developing Avatar movies. Like Nickelodeon kind of came in and said, look, Netflix is doing what they're doing on the live action side, but we don't want you to do just a series. We want to do, like, Avatar is a piece of Nickelodeon, and we want to do multiple projects that all exist in the Avatar universe in animation. And there's been talk of a team Avatar, a classic team Avatar, like Aang and Sokka and Katara and and Toph when they were a little bit older. There's been a Zuko movie told, like there's been a lot of movies that have been thrown around as well. So what they're kind of been offered is come in and tell stories in this universe that you've built, but tell them in animation. And so they're sort of building their own animated cinematic universe, which is pretty cool.
Okay. All right. That's, and I mean, there the twain shall meet. Like, will Netflix get pissed because they're going to go off and keep creating more lore and mythology? What do you think is the situation?
Not really, because like what Netflix is doing, I mean, even if they could get pissed, which I don't think they can given the way the deals work, but like what Netflix is doing is taking what exists and turning it into live action for people that haven't watched animation. In success, Netflix can keep doing that. Like Netflix can do a couple more seasons of live action Avatar, and then if they wanted to, they could do live action Korra. And now, given these announcements, they could do live action Seven Havens if they wanted to. So it's sort of a symbiotic relationship in that Nickelodeon can keep like building out the animated world, and if Netflix wants to keep turning that animated world in live action, they can.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's probably a situation of the rising tide lifts all boats. I mean, another Avatar series being out there, being on people's mouths, I think that only helps the Netflix series. And if they get to a live action Korra, John, you will lose your mind. I mean, it is so
John would lose his mind with the animated Korra. I swear to God, we're going to make this happen.
You're an optimist.
I know. Here's the thing. I know John Roca, and I know that, like, given Aang's personality in Avatar, he would be like, I enjoy this show, but given Korra's personality and given what happens in her journey in Korra, I actually know with 100% certainty that John Roca will like Korra more than Avatar.
Okay, I have to defer to you from the outside looking in. Yes, I think because I mean there must be a reason I haven't watched that one. But yeah, I'll put that on the list with Arcane and Severance. All three of those need to be watched. For God's sakes. But speaking of symbiotes, let's move on from this story. And thank you so much, Michael, for talking about it. Let's move on to this other story, and that is this. Right, it's right. The Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man finale happened here. The last 2 episodes dropped 2 days ago. We are talking about it now, and there was a lot that happened in these episodes here. A hero or a menace, and if this be my destiny. I thought these were 2 fantastic episodes. We get more into the world of Peter and all the different things that he's dealing with his friends. We have this crazy symbiote in the finale. Doctor Strange shows up. Daredevil shows up. We find out who Finesse is. And Doc Ock here with petty Norman Osborn there visiting him in the prison. There was so much that happened, and some twists and turns here with Lonnie and with Nico. And at the end there with Peter's father, like there was so much that was put into these 2 episodes. I was supremely surprised at what we got, but I absolutely loved it. Shannon, let's go to you first. What were your thoughts on these 2 episodes? You like the episodes? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? What stood out for you? Your thoughts?
I mean, they kind of did the HBO thing where the story for the season kind of gets wrapped up in the penultimate episode. And then the finale actually is going to take us into the next season, which I thought I love that formula. This show is just so well done. It is so satisfying. I love an interrogation scene, and watching Norman Osborn take a victory lap in a prison as Otto's behind bars. And you can tell they just know how they know how to push each other's buttons. And even in animated form, like that is a delight to see. Like the kind of stoicism that Otto has every time Norman kind of, throws a barb his way. It was just super, super well done. I love the kind of tech up that we see with Matt Gargan, how he gets that helmet. Like the Scorpion from the comics, like especially, back in, 60s, 70s, 80s, the Scorpion's a guy in scorpion suit, like, and it's very easy to look kind of silly. And what they did with this particular design, and I know that they've done some similar things in the comics as well, they made the Scorpion a legitimate scary threat. And during that big final action scene, as Matt Gargan is charging forward towards Peter, you see the PTSD that this, again, child has from this grown-up trying to kill him. Like, that part was just so well done. It was so well done that it distracted me mostly from the weird background fighting that they were doing between the Scorpions and the 1/10. Very, very slow. Love the return of Doctor Strange, and the fact that in this universe, the spider that bit Peter was genetically modified from Peter himself.
From Peter.
Like, I was like, that's just so well done. And again, huge shout out to Jeff Trammell and his staff, because that was just, again, such a satisfying show. And they started releasing stills of some people that we can expect to see in the second season, which has me very excited.
Yeah, Michael, what did you think of this? I mean, Spider-Man's one of those characters I know you absolutely love here, and we've been enjoying the series. What did you think about how they landed the plane over these last 2 episodes?
So one of the things I like, Jeff Trammell said this in several interviews. He said this a bunch of times, but Jeff Trammell's a big fan of Spectacular Spider-Man. And one of the things that he was very into with Spectacular Spider-Man is how no one just kind of came out of left field as a villain. Like Greg Weisman really sort of like when you watch the first episode of Spectacular Spider-Man, you meet most of the characters that are going to be villains in that episode throughout the season, and you sort of see their journeys go and develop. And Jeff Trammell said he was always really inspired by that. So I actually sent Jeff Trammell a message this week and told him that, as someone who my first job as a development executive was on Spectacular Spider-Man, I thought Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man was fucking awesome. And I thought it was amazing. And he emailed me back, and we had a nice little exchange back and forth as 2 Spider-Man people. But yeah, I think that this show has nailed it in a way that most Spider-Man shows don't. And it's everything that you guys are talking about, but like every character in this series has been so interesting and dynamic, and their journeys have been so fun to watch. And so absolutely watching Peter's journey from getting bitten by the spider that ultimately carried his own DNA was great. But the Norman Osborn story was great. The Harry Osborn story was great. The Nico story was great. The Lonnie story was great. Like just from top to bottom, all of these stories were really, really interesting. And they've really built out this compelling universe that can go anywhere. I mean, they sort of did. I've said this in all of our Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man reviews, or friendly. I've said it in all our reviews, but they did a better job telling a multi-episode what if story than anything in What If season 3 did. They started with, here's the Peter Parker you know, and now let's keep twisting it and making it a little bit different, a little bit different, a little bit different. And they've created an entire cast of Spider-Man characters that I can't wait to see what happens next. Like, obviously, I can't wait to see Peter Parker's story. And I think Shannon said in our review when we were talking about it last week, the fact that Norman Osborn sort of hit him with great
power.
With great power comes great respect.
Yeah.
Seeing how he sort of goes on this journey to get to with great power comes great responsibility is interesting, but even seeing the end with Lonnie sort of throwing his jacket away and seeing the white start to like happen on his fingers, like with every single character, with Nico sort of talking to her parents, they did such an amazing job in those last few minutes. The fact that Amadeus Cho is staying at Oscorp, like with every single character, we sort of got that little check-in that made me super, super excited about what's going to come next in season 2. So I thought they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I have to agree with you guys. I thought it was so much fun to watch. And the greatest compliment I can give this series is that it felt like reading comic books again.
Yeah.
Even though I was watching it. And that was awesome because I don't care that everybody's a superhero or a villain. Like that everybody in the universe, which of course the odds would be astronomically insane, but that's what's great about comics. You can lose yourself in that world. And this series had me losing myself in that world. So I was like, oh yeah, there's Lonnie becoming Tombstone. Oh, I was heartbroken when it was happening too. When he felt like, oh my God, is he going to turn a villain now? No, they worked together. They fought Scorpion together. I was like, yes, that is awesome. And then you go to that that scene later on in the finale where he throws the jacket into the trash can. You're like, oh no. So we're going to go down this path with him, which is heartbreaking. So I love that they give you that element there. And the tragedy, yeah, definitely Nico talking to her parents. That's interesting. What does that mean? She instinctively used her amulet to protect herself, and Peter had to stop it there at the last moment. So where's that going to lead to? Lonnie's now in charge of the 110. So now he's very much in this position. And where do we go with Pearl? I guess we're going to figure that out as it goes along. But also the reveal of Finesse. I did not see that coming at all. And when they had that near the end, I'm like, oh, this is genius. With Daredevil there, but the Doctor Strange showing up in the finale, that worked so well. I mean, just worked so well. And the way they swung it all the way back around to the first episode, great stuff. This is where the writing is really tight. The characters are very exciting. And the voiceover work is excellent in bringing the levels and the depths and the emotion to everything that's going on here. So you are attached to everybody. And Norman playing the bitchy teen with a burn book, going back and forth with Osgood, I thought was great. I thought that's great because Norman is insecure. Oz doesn't have to return all of his barbs. He just waits and then boom, comes at him. And so I can't wait to see that down the road. Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, it was like Otto Octavius. What was great about Shannon's great. Like any kind of interrogation scene, any kind of like argument in a prison is great. But what was great about that scene is Norman came in and was like, I found you. I reported you to Thaddeus Ross. I'm the reason Tony Stark caught you. I got you. And when Otto says to him, I'm smarter than you are. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm always, I'm worth 100 of you. You had to steal my stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're too fucking stupid to come up with your own stuff. Like it was such a great scene because both of them sort of had a leg to stand on, and watching them battle it out, that ultimately is like Otto is the smartest guy out of the two of them, but Norman and the way that he manipulates people in a way that Otto never could. Like, they both have their strengths, and that scene sort of represented the best of both of them. So it was super, super compelling. And like, that's sort of what's great about the entire series, is that there's, to your point, there are so many characters here, even like the people that Harry invites as far as getting into Easter eggs. You look at the list of people that Harry has emailed to join his web group. It's all deep cuts. So anybody in this entire show can get superpowers. Anybody could become something. We've got Carla Connors, we've got Otto Octavius, we've got Norman Osborn, we got Harry Osborn, we got Nico, we got everybody. And yes, astronomically, statistically, that's not ever going to happen. But for the purposes of what's going to be exciting for us to watch, this show could go anywhere. There's so many things happening right now, and they did it so effortlessly. It didn't seem like too much. It just seemed like, okay, here's like these characters that are cool. And we now are at a point where we're diving into season 2. And are we even going to get Green Goblin? Does Doc Ock get his tentacles? Like, is Lonnie going full Tombstone? Like, I don't know where it's going to go, but wherever it goes, I'm super, super compelled.
Yeah. And as you mentioned earlier, I mean, they're going to be, I mean, there was a shot there near the end of the Watcher in the sky, looking at Peter. There, now, where's that going to lead us to? There's the Sokovia Accords that are mentioned. So this is a super interesting.
Otto Octavius reading the Sokovia Accords and getting mad about the typos. Cheers, Jeff Trammell. Cheers to you.
Because that's the kind of stuff that could have been really cheesy and stupid, but it was fun and it was smart and it was hilarious. By the way, Hugh Dancy is better in 1 minute of this than he is in the entire seasons of Law and Order that he's been on, for God's sake. He's so dry in Law and Order. There was so much life to him as Doc Ock. That was great to see. And I do want to give a shout out to Jonathan Medina, who brought Matt Gargan to life. Some of those line deliveries were super scary. And
to Shannon's point, Matt Gargan in this is scared. Like, Peter's fear of Scorpion. And Peter just like being like, this is the guy, this guy stabbed me, this guy got the better of me. Like they took Scorpion, who could have just been a throwaway, I beat him in an episode, and they made him very, very, very scary.
Yeah. And to the point that Peter almost, killed him, almost violated, and Lonnie had to be the one. That was a great twist, that Lonnie is the one to tell him, hey, you're someone they look up to. You can't be like him. Don't do this. All of that was so genius. They made us care about everybody. And I found myself siding with Doc Ock by the end of the thing. So when they put up his arms, I was like, oh man, I'm in on this.
Yeah, no, I will say, like, look, I mean, Marvel is where Marvel is, and I think we're all very excited about Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, and we'll see where it goes. But, what if season 3 aside, from an animation standpoint, I really enjoy What If seasons 1 and 2. Yeah. I really, really enjoyed Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and I think X-Men 97 is one of the absolute best shows that we got last year, hands down. So, I mean, from an animation standpoint, they're doing really well. So knowing that we're getting this Wakanda series, we have Marvel Zombies, like, I'm actually really curious to see where they're going on the animation front. And I'm thrilled that we're getting more of the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man episodes.
Yeah, for sure. Any final words on these last 2 episodes there, Shannon, that we didn't mention or missed?
No, this one is a big recommendation. And again, the art didn't always work for me, but the storytelling is so good that the slow motion action scene in the streets that kind of ends with a whimper. But the storytelling is so good. If you haven't checked this show out, it is definitely worth a watch.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of a soft reboot or hard reboot we're doing post Secret Wars, but I would be 100. I know that there is not an Oscorp, nor apparently a Norman Osborn in the current MCU. I'd be very fine with Coleman Domingo being a live action Norman Osborn.
100%. 100%. And like as you mentioned, Mike, there's the new shots here for season 2 of Spider-Gwen there being a part of this thing. So those are some good shots as well here. First look at Gwen Stacy there in her regular clothes hanging out. So yeah, some good stuff that we're going to be seeing. Oh, there's a full picture. There we go. So it's good. We're going to be seeing more and more of this stuff, these designs come out. I'm just happy that this turned out to be so well. And ironically, the animation is clearly killing it. The live action has to kind of now catch up.
Yeah.
Where else have we seen that before? DC. So we will see going forward what the second season is going to be like for this. So, all right, let's move on to our main topic, shall we, gentlemen? I know we're running out of time. We got about 29 minutes and 12 questions, so we want to get to this these stuff first. So as we were saying, we watched Captain America: Brave New World. We had our spoiler review, which is was done live. That is up for you all if you've missed it. It's on the channel. It's on our podcast feed. But Michael asked in our group chats that we have with our other friend JG about who would be in the Marvels team that Sam is putting together. And there are a lot of people to consider in this Marvel team. As you see there on the screen, Shuri, Shang-Chi, Thor. Is Black Widow going to come back? Loki, Captain Marvel, the new Black Panther, possibly, and all She-Hulk, Captain Britain. God knows what's going to be coming down here overall when we get to the Avengers situation. But I wanted to make this the main topic, and so because this is fun to discuss. So, Michael, what do you got? What do you want to say? Do you want to just give your whole team? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't know. Well, are we giving our who we want or who we think? I mean, that's really the question, because I think that we could all just sit all day and talk about who we think, given the MCU, who we think our best Avengers team would be. But given the state of the MCU and where things are headed because we get to, and again, I mean, spoilers, I guess, but you could look at our whole review, but by the end of Brave New World, we know that Sam is going to kind of restart the Avengers.
He's been
and we know, and we know because he basically tells Joaquin, you're going to be in the new Avengers.
Yeah.
And we know from the leader that we're sort of gearing up for there's going to be a multiversal collapse and a lot of different super teams, both heroes and villains, are going to be defending their planets. And I don't know, we know we got the Thunderbolts happening. We got the Fantastic Four. I'm making some assumptions that I don't know are even true, but I'm assuming I'm taking everyone that's in the Thunderbolts and putting them over here. I'm like, the Thunderbolts are going to end up in being their own team. And I'm not including the Fantastic Four yet. I feel like the Fantastic Four is going to be their own team. And I'm not including any mutants, even though we've heard lots of rumors about casting, and there's Ryan Reynolds and there's Hugh Jackman. I'm kind of putting them all over here. So I'm kind of only looking at mainline MCU. Where is everybody? We had a whole conversation on our text chain about who's even on Earth at this point. Right. I think Monica Rambeau is coming in with the X-Men from the 20th Century Fox universe because she's chilling over there. So I think she shows up and goes, guys, hey, meet the X-Men. So what? We got Sam, we got Joaquin. Shang-Chi, I think, is the most likely. Okay. Shang-Chi is in, right?
I would think so.
Peter Quill is on Earth.
Yes.
And I think the entire arc of Guardians 3, the whole Peter Quill, shouldn't you go home and reconnect with your dad, is the dumbest part of Guardians 3. And the only reason it exists is because they wanted Peter Quill to be on Earth. So I think Peter Quill is in the Avengers. And beyond that, I don't know. I mean, we talked a lot about Doctor Strange. I don't know that Doctor Strange counts. I think he's going to show up at some point with Clea. Maybe Shuri, maybe Namor. Okay. I don't know. I asked the question because I don't actually know. I want She-Hulk to be in it. I don't know if she will. Bruce Banner, Bruce Banner and Thor, I feel make the cut because they just sort of exist, but I don't know where they even are right now. So what do you guys think?
Yeah. What do you think, Shannon? What do you got? Do you have a team already lined up, or are we talking just kind of troubleshooting right now?
Well, I think in terms when we were originally talking about this on the text thread, it was who does Sam recruit?
Yeah, who does Sam recruit? Yes.
So right off the bat, this is such a different situation than we got in the Infinity Saga, because Avengers 1, most of those Avengers had an idea about each other. We got to see Steve Rogers and Bruce Banner shake hands on the helicarrier. clearly Steve Rogers and Tony Stark had some sort of interaction. Thor was kind of the wild card that came out, that dropped out of the sky. In Infinity War, they were all fragmented. So it's like, you've got some folks over here, you've got the Guardians over here, you've got Tony, Spidey, and Doctor Strange over here. So how Sam is going to do this, if Sam is going to do this, maybe it's not Sam. Maybe they got another plan, because there are so many characters on the film. I went through and just wrote everyone who is on Earth right now. We got Sam Wilson, Joaquin Torres, Carol Danvers, Kamala Khan, Spidey, from the Black Panther world. Could it be Shuri? It could also be Okoye. Okoye's been on those holographic communications. Granted, she's not the general that she was, but now she's like a midnight angel. Okay, so we've got Wong from Doctor Strange.
Right.
We've got Scott Lang, Cassie Lang, Hope Van Dyne from Ant-Man, Clint Barton and Kate Bishop from Hawkeye, Shang-Chi from Hulk. We've got Bruce Banner. We got Jen Walters. We've also got Emil Blonsky. Emil Blonsky did come back, and he seems like he's had a change of heart.
You could argue Red Hulk. You could argue Red Hulk. He's on Earth.
He's on the board.
He's in prison.
I'm just saying, they could break him out. I'm just saying.
With Thor, that we've got Valkyrie, Guardians, we've got Star-Lord, WandaVision. Like Wanda, unless you think her getting squished was the red magic coming out.
She's dead.
Wanda's out there.
Right. And White Vision's out there. Yeah.
White Vision, Billy Kaplan, but Billy has not met any of these people. Yeah. You do have Mark Spector on the board.
That's true.
And you have Daredevil and the Punisher.
Yeah.
So holy crap. Like, that's just who's on Earth. you get out into space. You do have Rocket, Groot, Adam Warlock, you got Stephen Strange and Clea, you've got Thor and his adopted daughter. Werewolf by Night. Yep. Winsmack. I forgot about Werewolf by Night. Yeah. Personally, I hope it's not Joaquin, because their dynamic is just not interesting to me.
Joaquin's in it.
Yeah.
Joaquin's in it.
I want them to focus on stronger characters.
Okay.
But it's gonna be Carol. He's gonna go to Captain Marvel.
Okay.
If you think there's two ways to think about it. There's like the strategic commercial, like I'm Bob Iger and Kevin Feige sitting in a room, in which case you say things like no to Moon Knight. You probably say no, like I want Jen Walters on the team, but you maybe say no to Jen Walters. But who does Sam actually know? Like, you kind of go, if I was Sam, given who I have battled with in the past and who I fought with in the past, like I know Rhodey.
Yes.
I know Bucky. I know Bucky might be on Thunderbolts, but he knows Bucky. He knows Bruce. He knows Carol Danvers. He knows Okoye. He knows Shuri-ish. Yeah. Like he knows Wong. I think maybe.
Ish. Well, they're like thinking about the folks that are on those holographic communications. Like at the end, what was it? It was Carol.
Ant-Man. He knows Bruce. Ant-Man. Sorry, somebody said Ant-Man. I keep forgetting about Scott and Cassie. Scott, Cassie, and Hope. But all of them, I feel like, are in.
I think Hope is out because Evangeline Lilly has said she's retired from acting. So, and that was, she put that, and it's 3 years ago that she did Quantumania. She's done. She says she's done. She says she might come back, but she's done. So I don't think we're going to see Hope. But
and Michael Douglas,
Michael
Douglas has said also that he's kind of done. So if Scott and Hope break up off screen and it's just Scott and Cassie,
right?
That works. But it's gonna be Spidey. You're gonna have Spidey. Sure. He does know Wong. Does Wong become an Avenger, or does Wong watch over the sanctums?
So, and with Spidey, it's interesting. I mean, we talked about this a little bit when we brought this up briefly on our Brave New World review, but they've never, because we haven't gotten to Spider-Man 4 yet, we've not yet addressed how anybody deals with Spidey. Like, what do they know and not know? Like, we're all assuming that everybody's like, yeah, you fought with us in the airport in Germany, and then you showed up and fought Thanos. We don't know who you are. Yeah. And to be fair, aside from like Tony and Happy and a few others, like most people probably didn't know who Spidey was. So like Sam's knowledge of Spidey, I don't know that Sam ever knew who Peter Parker was, but he knows he fought Spider-Man in Germany. Right, so, So like I think that like Spidey would be up there, but it's going to be really interesting because like what we're building to is, as I'm assuming at the beginning of Doomsday, is Sam trying to sort of reassemble the Avengers and not knowing that there's this bigger thing happening. And while he's kind of putting a team together and trying to figure things out, we find out that there's incursions or Robert Downey Jr. or whatever. But it's going to be interesting.
Here's my team, right? Falcon, definitely. Obviously, Shang-Chi. I think Falcon's in this. I think Danny's in. There's no way out of it. Shang-Chi is definitely in because the fans have been clamoring for a sequel.
I agree.
Definitely. And you want some mysticism. You want the 10 rings. Like, you want that on your side. I think Black Panther is in whatever form it comes in, whether it's Letitia Wright as Shuri or if it's the variant that comes through. I don't know. But I think a Black Panther will be in this crew. I totally believe that. I hear you, Mike, on She-Hulk. I think the negativity around it, I don't see Tatiana coming back. Maybe you'd like her to come back. Maybe there's a cameo, but I can't see her being a full part of the Avengers. Hulk, absolutely. Thor, absolutely. I'm kind of in and out on War Machine. Maybe. Ant-Man, totally. Captain Marvel, totally. I think Wong, and I'll tell you why, because Wong's a Sorcerer Supreme now, but also they canceled that Strange Academy show, which is where Wong was going to be the leader of that academy and teaching essentially like Harry Potter, like these young sorcerers. So you got to put him somewhere. So to me, it makes sense to make him an Avenger, kind of replacing the Doctor Strange energy who's going to be out there with Clea doing God knows what. And I think you've got Spider-Man absolutely being a part of this, and Star-Lord. I think Star-Lord is an interesting X factor who will probably resist being part of the team, but will eventually see that he's got to take part and be in this. And don't count out Namor. I mean, if they're coming for the Earth, Namor is going to want to protect his people and his water area. And so I think Namor is in play here as well to be part of the Avengers. And we've seen in the comics how he's gone back and forth.
And another interesting thing about this, I mean, this is just me pulling from the comics. And again, not that they're going to, however much they're going to adapt the comics, it's going to be the MCU version of things. But what's interesting is one of the core philosophical issues leading up to Secret Wars is that when you have these universes incurring on each other, did I say it right that time? Incurring?
You did.
Great. When you have these universes incurring on each other, you get to the point where you're like, well, if we don't do anything, both universes will be destroyed, or we can fight and destroy a universe. But if you're a good guy, you're like, are we really going to just like condemn billions of people to death? Namor in the comics had no issue with that. And I think what's interesting is if Doctor Strange shows up and says, here's what's at stake, and you did have a Namor who was like, great, you got to save our universe. And you had a Peter Quill or a Spider-Man or someone being like, wait, are we really killing billions of people? Like, that's interesting. So I think that could be a really interesting dynamic to play with.
I don't think
also,
go ahead. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Well, by the time Doomsday gets here, we will also have had Ironheart, Riri Williams.
That's true.
And Wonder Man, Simon Williams.
Oh, yeah.
And Wonder Man is a powerful character. And if you get sort of a Wonder Man, Vision, Hawkeye, you get sort of a West Coast Avengers thing.
Yeah.
So to the chat, because people have brought it up, I just want to say, Wonder Man, it'll be interesting to see what that show is. I feel like that show is coming out at a point where it's like, strategically, I would be reticent to include him without knowing how he's received.
Yeah, that's
just from a corporate standpoint. I'd be like, oh, let's wait. Similarly, we all know that White Vision exists out there somewhere, but we've not seen him since the end of WandaVision, and that show's not coming out for a minute. I kind of feel like Billy, White Vision, Wonder Man, all of that, it's just like we're just pushing that down the curb. Wanda's interesting because although Wanda is technically dead, whether Wanda comes back, whether Wanda does something, whether it's a Wanda from another part of the multiverse, I think that Marvel is well aware of the fact that Wanda is so fucking popular that her playing a part in Secret Wars seems like that would be the moment to be like, this is how Wanda comes back.
Right. What if it's Wanda and Agatha as like these ghost spirits who come in to be a part of this thing? Could be interesting. Well, Fred has a valid question. What about Madison? That's a fair point, Fred.
By the way,
what about Madison?
Madison can be the linchpin to all of Secret Wars, and I'm in.
Good point. Somebody mentioned America Chavez. Does America Chavez play a part, even though it was a clumsily introduced character in Multiverse of Madness?
She's over there with Walt and Comertage.
Yeah.
Well, it's the question of like, so this is really the question of like, do people, I mean, I think America Chavez falls into this category lesser because I think she's been in it less, but like, you've got Kate Bishop, you've got Kamala Khan, you've got Cassie Lang, you've got America Chavez, you've got these characters, you've got Billy Kaplan, you've got all the characters that we know are lined up to become the Young Avengers at some point.
Right.
Riri Williams, but do some of them make it into the Avengers for Secret Wars Doomsday and then spin off, or are they saving all of them for later on? Like, that's another question.
That's an excellent point, Michael. They all, I mean, because at one point the Avengers were 16 people, so you could bring them in and then they splinter off, seeing how well they work with each other. That's a great point for sure. I mean, I think these are all really interesting situations to have. So although it looks like we're not sure, there's a lot to choose from, which I think is exciting.
I guess what I will say, I mean, like what's fun about the conversation is not that we're going to fucking figure it out on our live Friday afternoon Geek Buddies episode. But what's fun about this conversation, I'm going to say this in the most positive way possible, is that even though Captain America Brave New World was good enough, it wasn't great, but we are now on the precipice of something that none of us quite know what's going to happen. And almost because of the fact that phases 4 and 5 were so unconnected, we're sort of on this moment where we're like, there's a lot of potential pieces on the board. And depending on which pieces you choose, this could either be a fucking disaster of way too many characters and I don't even care. Because like the one thing they have going against them is going into Infinity War with the characters they had, even though it was a ton of characters, we actually really cared about everybody.
100%.
And with going into Doomsday, there's a bunch of characters that we've only met like maybe once. Like Kate, I love Kate Bishop, but she was Hawkeye. Like she was in Hawkeye and that's it. You know, I think Shang-Chi is great, but we've never seen him after his movie. So aside from Yelena and a couple other characters, like most people haven't even shown up in a second thing. So we have a bunch of characters that are potentially good, but we don't have the investment in them that we had leading into Infinity War. So what the Russos are really trying to deal with right now, and McFeely is trying to deal with right now, is who are the best characters that we can take and in a very, very short amount of time catch the audience up on what's been going on with them and make us really, really care about them for these 2 movies. And I think it's a very interesting and different dynamic than we had going into Infinity War. And it's a very different challenge, but they do have more options in front of them because there's so many fucking characters at this point.
Okay, so the first Avengers film, there were 6 Avengers.
Yes.
Johnny picked 6.
Oh, shit. All right, hold on.
No, wait, are we picking 6 with Sam and Joaquin as a given 1 and 2? Or can we just pick whoever?
No, you're picking 6.
6 total.
Okay. 6 total.
Oof. All right, so definitely Falcon and Captain America. Shang-Chi as my 3rd. Definitely Hulk. Ooh. Captain Marvel and Spider-Man. I guess those would, although I might change Hulk out for Thor. So I'll go with Thor, Captain Marvel, and Spider-Man. Damn, 6. Damn.
Mikey?
I can't do it. That's
6.
tough.
Hold on. Thinking.
That is tough, man.
All right, I'm not picking Joaquin, even though I know he's obviously in the Avengers in the movie.
Cheating. He's in it.
I know he is, but I'm just picking what I want here.
Okay, all right. Then I get to put Hulk back in. No, I won't take Joaquin.
Fine.
I put Hulk back in. All right, go ahead.
Sam,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Peter,
Which one?
Quill, Peter Quill,
Oh, Peter Quill. Okay.
Sam, Carol, Peter Quill,
Yes.
Jen Walters.
Oh, you putting She-Hulk in. Wow. Okay.
Thor and Ant-Man.
Wow, you're leaving out Spider-Man.
Fuck! And Spider-Man. Seven. And Spider-Man. Seven.
Oh, man. What do you got, Shen? What do you got?
I mean, I think we have a lot of cross-pollination here.
Okay.
Sam, Carol, Spidey.
Oh, and Shang-Chi. Shit, I got 8.
Of course.
Shang-Chi. I'm gonna go Okoye because I think there has to be some sort of Wakandan representation on the team because post Blip they were such an important part. Yeah. And then for the last one, it would be Hulk. It would be Banner.
Okay, I like this question. What about Mobius? Does Mobius make
MODOK.
I mean, he was made an Avenger at the end.
Yeah, these are great. These are great problems to have.
It is like,
Mike, I think you said it best. It's like a relay where the person who handed the baton fell down handing you the baton, but you still got it. So you can still finish the race.
Look, here's what I'll say about this conversation. And I mean, even everybody in the chat talking about who they want on their team. Like, here's the thing. We all get it. Like phases 4, 5, and we'll see about 6, but phases 4 and 5 did not give us phases 1, 2, and 3. Like we have not been in the same place. We've had some pretty major misses. It doesn't feel the same. Like the MCU is not what it was. Like that's just a fact. And whether you hate the MCU or you absolutely love the MCU, we can all admit that the MCU is not what it was. But the fact that we're leading towards Avengers Doomsday.
Yeah.
And there's so many potential characters to pull from, and we're not quite sure what's going to happen. There, like it still makes me excited. Now, I might be super disappointed, and if it wasn't the Russos and McFeely, I would probably be more dubious than I am. Like, I think that gives me this shred of like, I'm holding on to that. Like, you guys have done this before, you know what you're doing, but like, it gives me the hope that like, we've got the potential is there. The characters are there. It could be amazing. It could be a disaster, but it could be amazing.
I mean, this is a good problem to have a wealth of characters to choose from. It's a good problem to have. I like Gerald Boney's, who's going with New Edition. Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, Mike, Ralph, and Johnny. Absolutely. Save us all, New Edition. Save us all. All right, well, that's our discussion. We got to get into the questions. We've got limited time here. So let's blaze through these. Let's not take 5 minutes every time because I know we got to go. So Cowboys,
you look at me every time you say that.
No, I know Shannon's got to cook. He's got to fire up the oven. Hey, buddies. Happy Friday. I binged your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man EP episodes 1 through 8 in time for the finale. For the final 2 episodes when they dropped, and I freaking love this show. Top tier storytelling, animation, and
100%.
Yeah, agreed.
It's great. I think X-Men 97 is better, but it's close.
Yeah, I would agree with that. By the way, the real Bo DeMayo followed me back on Twitter this week after I said for him to go chase his dream of writing a Tomb Raider movie. There you go. There you go. You got to get Bo to follow me back. Mr. Brinkman says, how expensive do you think Secret Wars Doomsday will be? Do you think they will break the record for the most expensive films with everyone coming back and how many characters are in the film and everything that goes into a movie? Shan?
Well, you think about how much they're paying Robert Downey Jr. and how much they're paying the Russos.
Yeah, right.
That's 3 people. And they haven't shot a frame of film yet.
Yeah. That's like paying for your quarterback and the 2 receivers. And you're like, wait, there's the rest of the team. What do you think, Mike? It's going to be a lot?
It's going to be a lot.
500 million, maybe?
It's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's going to be a ton of money, but it's weird, man. Like, it's so funny. Like, even being at the gym this week and talking to people, like people who have not gone to see Marvel movies or talked to about it are going to see Captain America. And they didn't like it. They didn't like Captain America, but it's like I do think there's this desire for an Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that despite that, I'm not going to watch this show on Disney Plus, I'm not going to do this. There is this weird sort of like everybody wants an Avengers movie. And I think we've been robbed of it. You know, like phases 1, 2, and 3, we had an Avengers movie every phase. And I think that that's the thing. If they do it right, it's going to be expensive as fuck. But if it pays off, it's going to pay off big.
Here's something crazy to think about. And this is written up in The Ringer. Daniel Chin did a great job. If you guys haven't read this article, definitely read it. Daniel Chin said it's been 15 movies and 14 live action TV shows since Endgame. That's how long we've been waiting for a new Avengers team, which is crazy to think about. Crazy. NGR1984 says, sorry if it's been mentioned before and I missed it, but how did you all meet? Thanks for all the great content. Florida State University.
College.
College.
Yeah.
I was in a shitty show and Shannon was in the shitty show and we were in the shitty show together and then we didn't like the show and the director hated us because we skipped set building and we went to go see Daylight starring Sylvester Stallone instead and became best friends. He was supposed to live with me sophomore year, but then he got cast as John Connor in Terminator 2 at Universal, dipped out on me and I had to live with a drug dealer. But as soon as he left, John Roca came to college to finish out his degree to become a theater major and we didn't talk to each other for a year because he had a different group of friends. But when we went to London, he asked to be my roommate and all my friends were like, why are you going to live with that guy? You barely know him. But I'm like, something about him feels right. And we lived together in London and we became best friends. And then we came back from London and we were best friends. But Shannon didn't live with us because he was in Orlando being John Connor. And then he went to Japan. But then Shannon was coming out to LA and I was like, you got to meet my friend John Roca. He's pretty cool. He's like, I don't know about this guy. I'm like, he loves movies. You love movies. We're going to get along. And then we met and we all became best friends.
It's true. It's true. While Shannon was sleeping on a blow-up mattress in the middle of our living room, if I remember correctly. Bond will be public domain in 2030. We could make one. I think we're going to stop that from happening. Brian Davison says, cheers. Thank you, Brian. Very kind of you. And thanks for the sweet donation here. Ryan Merrill says, happy weekend, Geek Buddies. It's been a long week. A nice little happy hour is just what the doctor ordered. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers, Ryan.
Cheers to you, Ryan. Definitely. Julian Ramos says, hey, guys, big fan of the show. Just finished the first 3 seasons of Daredevil. And, man, I forgot how amazing that show was. High hopes for Born Again. Yeah, Mike.
They've released a couple clips. We didn't talk about them today, but they've released a couple clips online. And they are better than the clips that were released for Brave New World. They got me hyped. I know we get a week off this next week, and then we dive in, and I'm stoked. I cannot wait to get back into that universe.
Just that scene of Fisk and Matt Murdock in a diner, just talking is so captivating. And whatever the original version for the MCU Daredevil show was going to be, I'm glad that they pivoted and they leaned into the Netflix show because that series got a whole lot right.
And D'Onofrio said this week that they listened to them. The actors on the set were not enjoying what was happening, and they finally listened and started all over again, which is interesting. Sorry, Oliver 3748 says, who should I pair Spider-Man with in my Spidey script? Johnny Storm or Harry Osborn? By the way, any comic recommendations for inspiration? Happy Friday.
Well, it depends on your story, first of all.
Good point.
Go with Johnny. Pair him up with Johnny. We just saw a great Peter Harry pairing from Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
True.
Pair him up with Johnny. And also, even though DC's Rebirth, you know, people have got their feelings about it, the Flash #1 of DC Rebirth is a beautiful comic.
Okay. I will say that just mainly because I'm excited about finally getting a Johnny Storm in the MCU, and I would love to see a Johnny Storm and Spidey together, I'll lean that way. But if you do want a really great Spider-Man Harry Osborn story, if you haven't checked it out, check out Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman, which is out right now. I think issue 13 just came out, but they kind of really build out the Peter Parker Harry Osborn relationship. Very awesome.
Nice. Draws Walker says, where does Henry Cavill fit in Star Wars or Marvel? Well, he's already been in Marvel as that Rogue Wolverine. So I would say there.
I swear to God, every goddamn day I open Twitter and somebody is talking about how Henry Cavill needs to be cast in something. And guys, he's fine.
Wow.
He's fine.
Wow.
You have to get him with the right director. So I think the first thing you want to do is find a director that understands how to direct it, like Guy Ritchie.
Good call. Good call. Jim One says, I hope Amazon follow tradition and keep the same Q actor. Oh, yeah, Ben Whishaw. I agree. Keep Ben Whishaw, for God's sakes. And keep Ray Fiennes if you can. I loved him.
And if you like Ben Whishaw, there's a series on Netflix right now called Black Doves.
Yep.
He's
great. He is great on Black Doves.
I'm so glad they announced a season 2 for that, man. We blazed through that in 2 nights. Such a great series. Darian Harmon says, do you all have a favorite Cinephiles moment? I think mine might be, maybe don't try to drive every time, says Roca. That entire exchange still kills me. All right. Thank you, Darian.
What was that? What was that
I
in
have
reference
no
to,
recollection of that. It probably was for the most recent Fury Road type of situation. I don't know. Darian, remind me in the chat. I'll look for it, but I don't remember that exchange.
I mean, I have one.
Go ahead.
I just talked to our friend Michael Ross last night. The Christmas Vacation episode, as you all are doing the intros, and there's about a 45-second bleep where Ross is saying something. Our friend Michael Ross is one of the funniest people on the planet. So
yeah, it was a joke about a sexually transmitted disease. We had to take it out of the show.
Yeah, I do think that the Michael Ross Christmas Vacation episode, I'm always partial to the ones that I'm on, and because
you're good on them, yeah,
because I am me. But I really like our Love Actually. I really like our Love Actually one. But we were actually just texting about this. I've been really enjoying listening to John and Steve talk about all of the Oscar picks.
Oh yeah, yeah. For those who don't
we've been listening to those, and even though I 100% disagree with Steve Morris about both The Brutalist and A Complete Unknown, and I have some serious concerns about John and Steve's opinions about some moments of Amelia Perez, I am enjoying listening to the reviews.
There you go. Yeah, we're doing them right now on the Cinephiles. If you guys don't know, that's the podcast that I have with Steve Morris, who's director in Los Angeles. We've been breaking down 30 minutes on each of the Best Picture nominees, and we're going to be doing I'm Still Here tomorrow, and then Dune Part 2 next week, and then the last 2 Nickel Boys and what have you. So all leading up to our awards show next Saturday, which these 2 will be a part of in a pre-recorded video. So I'm looking forward to it. Miro says, Old Rose from Titanic voice, it's been 84 years. Watch the Avatar, Roca. Take an iPad to the deprivation tank and watch it. I love it. I think
here's what I'll tell you. I can tell you exactly how this is going to go. Roca will start Avatar Book 1. And he will make it through an episode and a half and be like, this is kid stuff. I just couldn't get through it. And I'll say, you got to keep watching. You got to keep watching. So basically, Roca has to skip to the end of book 1 to get to the Water Nation, because that's where he'll actually get interested in it. Book 2 and book 3, he'll tear through. Korra, he will weep and say it's the greatest thing he's ever watched, and he doesn't know why he watched it before. But getting Roca through the first half of book 1 is really the lion's share of the issue here. Once he gets over that hump, I'm not concerned.
Okay. All right. That's a fair point. Poisonous Plants 15 says, favorite comic book writer and artist? Ooh, probably Brian Michael Bendis and then Frank Miller. I think those would be the 2 for me. Those would be the 2 for me, I think, right at the top. Yeah.
I mean, I've been reading Ultimate Spider-Man, and I've gone back and I read also his run on Fantastic Four. So right now I'm pretty big on Jonathan Hickman.
I'm going to go Tom King as the person that I think is writing the most interesting stories. Artist, I go back and forth. I'm a Jim Lee guy. I just love Jim Lee's art. But also Scotty Young. I've been following Scotty Young on Instagram, and Scotty Young's art just in general I'm really obsessed with. So those are my choices.
And just to make me feel old, who is the one who does Kingdom Come again? I forget.
Alex Ross.
Alex Ross. That is absolutely. I forgot. I should have said Alex Ross. Abe Torres, my team, Captain America, Captain Marvel, it's a lot of captains, Ant-Man and Wasp, Shang-Chi, Jane Foster's Thor, Shuri as Black Panther, Wong, Namor, and Falcon with an accent. I like the Falcon.
That's 10.
All right.
That's 10. If you get 10, they got 10, I want 10.
Right, but they also included someone dead.
She's dead-ish.
She's mostly dead.
She's mostly dead.
Not so much. I just love that he put the accent on Falcon. That's my favorite. Anthony says, what about Sentry? Well, he'll be on Thunderbolts eventually, I imagine.
I
So
mean,
yeah.
I don't know that Sentry makes it out of Thunderbolt.
That's a good point. Maybe we won't make it out. All right,
Taskmaster. I want Taskmaster on the team.
That's why they're not in the rest of the film. They got crew recruited to the Avengers. All right, we've got 5 of these to rip through. Corey H says, I love the show. Keep up the good work, guys. Thank you, Corey. Very kind of you. Hot Security Guard says, just saw The Gorge and I loved it. Yeah, I got to watch that this weekend. And I love Derrickson for Brave New World that I only thought was fine. I do like the smaller moments, like Bucky telling Sam, I love you, buddy. I think we need to see more guy friends do that in film and in life. Love you guys. Yeah, I agree.
Hey, I love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you too, Geek Buddies. Win Smack says, hey, buds, for a while I've been thinking that Iron Lad is the perfect emotional fix for an MCU Kang we care about. Bringing in Young Avengers straight from the comic storyline with Dune coming in at the end to steal Kang's time travel tech. Thoughts?
That is, I don't think they're going to do that for Doomsday, but I will say that is a brilliant workaround for Jonathan Majors. Doing a Young Avengers story where a younger, like kind of up and coming black actor comes in to play Iron Lad and says, I'm Kang before he becomes Kang is super smart and brilliant. And that's a great idea. And if they steal that, you should go sue them.
Yeah, I like this idea. Shannon, you like this idea? It's interesting.
I think the only challenge would be the fact that no one knows who Kang is except for Scott, Cassie, and Hope.
Right. Good point.
So a new version coming in, I don't necessarily think is going to resonate.
And if Disney has their way, no one
it would be if only Cassie was a Young Avenger.
That seems to be coming. I am too like him. Michael Vogel, how could you even ask if Roka should watch Netflix or the OG animation? Watch the greatest animated story, Roka. Don't bother with that cringe-inducing Netflix slop. Well, we already watched the Netflix slop.
I didn't ask. I said that I knew he had watched the live action one, and I've been trying to get him to watch the animated one for like 11 billion years.
It's true. Winsmack says, theory, the cases Thrawn is loading on his ship in Ahsoka Season 1 are Disney's version of Isala Marie from Zahn. Also, Star Wars needs this to lead into the Yuuzhan Vong as a new threat. Plus, New Jedi Order is already 19 books into the in the EU with yellow gray Jedi. Dude, he lost me 3 words in. I don't know half of this stuff that he mentioned. Gentlemen, any thoughts on this?
Well, Zahn, that's the guy who wrote the Heir of the Empire trilogy.
Yes.
I didn't catch some of that.
Yeah. Michael, anything? No? Okay, fair enough. Winsmack says, P.S. Why does Shannon feel the need to still specify himself as a TV actor? Isn't he also a stage and radio podcast actor? Respect where it's due, sir. Plus, it's not TV, it's HBO.
Well, thank you. The majority of my acting resume has been on television, so that's why I say television actor.
That's true. Winsmack also says, a while back you did a bit where Vogel explained how he would have fixed the DCU if he was in charge. Can you share how you would have written out the MCU after Far From Home? That would have been better than what we've gotten thus far. I don't think
I could, but not in the 3 minutes that we have left. So we're going to have to save that for another happy hour.
Yeah, we'll save that for the happy hour, Winsmack. But thank you very, very kindly for all of that stuff. Winsmack, and by the way, Winsmack, if you went back and watched some of the Geek Buddies episodes, I think you could compile how Mike would have fixed certain things, certainly with MCU going forward. Winsmack also says, to the point made during your Brave New World review about needing a better context of the state of the MCU Earth now, I think their biggest mistake was canceling the Damage Control show, which would have been the perfect vehicle to cover all of that.
I mean, I don't know that Damage Control was worthy of an entire show, but I do think Damage Control as an idea is super smart and exactly what the government would really do. So I do think having Damage Control, like I would have loved it. I would have loved to have seen a Brave New World movie where Damage Control was a major part of Thunderbolt Ross's administration. Like you had a secretary of damage control. And that was a big part, because how cool would it have been to have damage control kind of be against Sam and Joaquin because they were outside of the government. But then when the president goes full Hulk, damage control's like, so, hey guys, can you help us out here? Like that could have been cool.
And maybe you could have had Red Hulk in more than one sequence.
Oh, fair point. Fredtastic says, great show, showing support from a Geek Buddies. Thank you, Fred. You're going to need an Avenger who can take down a Celestial. Just saying. Hey, John, have you seen Moana 2? It's very good. Are we going to get an Invincible review from the Geek Buddies? Maybe at some point next week if we all catch up. Maybe.
Yeah, we should do like a full, like a season 3 review.
I'm down with that. I did see Moana 2. I liked it. Wasn't the best, but I thought for what they cobbled together, it was watchable enough. Certainly not better than the first one. So that's what I would say. All right, and then the last one is from Adit Mahmood. Would Sam ask Rhodey to join his team initially?
He would, except that what the fuck is Rhodey right now?
Yeah, I don't
know. Where, like, what was Rhodey a part of, and what was the scroll a part of? I don't know. Like, I think that I think that they are like sort of purposely keeping Rhodey to the side because they don't want to like have to explain the fact that he was a scroll through most of phase 3. At least like for Infinity War and Endgame, that was a scroll.
Yeah, post Civil War.
Post Civil War, and I think they just don't want to dive into that. I think they're like, we said a thing and it was bad and we don't want to touch it, so let's just keep Rhodey over here for now.
Yeah, fair point. Just a real quick piece of news. Spider-Man 4 has been pushed to late July 2026. So basically saying giving Odyssey 2 weeks to make its money, and then Spider-Man is going to come out. So it's just a week later, but that's what it's been pushed to. So just put that on your calendar as well, people. That's the situation there. All right, that's it. We got to go. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. 400 of you hanging out with us for a majority of the show. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Make sure, well, no, that's not my job. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's @Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is @MKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Roca, it is @The Roca Says.
Mikey.
And we would love it if you would go ahead and smash that like button below. Subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page. Check out all the amazing content he has got there. If you're listening to this later on and not listening to it live, leave your comments below. What do you think of a new Avatar series? What do you think of the new Avengers? What do you think of everything we talked about today? Let us know in the chat below. If you're listening to us on a podcast, go ahead and leave us some stars and some comments so we go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us on this special happy hour live episode of the Geek Buddies. You guys have been amazing. Thanks for the Streamlabs Super Chats and all the chat. And have a great weekend. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new live or taped episode of the
Geek
Buddies.